Good morning and welcome to the Bee Formless Flow Driven CEO, where we're talking all things life, leadership, and business today with Alyssa Durfey, all the way from Utah. Good morning, or good afternoon, I should say, Alyssa. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, doing well. It is afternoon here and morning there.
Yeah, it's so funny, isn't it? How we can have these connections from anywhere in the world. And, time is just, there's just no such thing as time when we're able to talk like this. It's really kind of quite crazy in a way.
Yeah. No, I think that connectivity is something that's so cool and something that I have really loved being able to see over the last several years and connecting with people that are all over the world and making these different connections and kind of like just identify. It's crazy how you can identify with people that are in completely different geographical locations, but they're really in a similar life position and you're kind of figuring out all the things together. I love it.
Yeah, so do I. So that takes us to, I want to hear all about you because we obviously have a lot in common by the sounds of things. But, you're making some, really impressive, positive and impactful change in the world. But let's start with you first and foremost. Can you just introduce yourself? Give us a bit of your backstory, what you're doing now, all of that.
Yeah, for sure. So I started my career early, as soon as I finished undergraduate studies and kind of jumped into the workforce in biotech and stayed there for about 10 years and really found success and found kind of a natural progression in my career and in development and kind of figuring out the different things that I was enjoying in life and meanwhile pursued a doctorate in public health because I
Wow.
saw a lot of issues that were going on in the world that people didn't have access to certain things or they didn't have the right planning in place to find the resources that they needed in sort of tight stressful type situations or low resource situations. So that was really the focus of my master's in public health. All the meanwhile, I'm still continuing in biotech and kind of like keeping my head down, but working in the lab. And then during the pandemic, actually, I won a award or was recognized as a top 40 under 40 honoree in my field.
Well,
And that
congratulations.
kind of led to, yeah, big stuff. And I was 24, 25 at the time. So it was like, yeah,
Huge. Yeah,
it
that is really
it
big.
was huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was big, definitely early in my career. But with that came a couple of conversations with people that they were like, hey, we have this opportunity. We need somebody actually with kind of your public health expertise, but also your lab experience
Mm.
to handle this new project that we're doing. So jumped in with both feet on that. Spent about a year and a half kind of doing everything in the lab space of developing a team, developing a lab. We opened the first private lab in the state of Alaska that was responding to the pandemic. So then we were able to take all of the pressure off the state public health lab
Yeah,
and
right.
take that into a private organization and let them get back to all the sort of like public health type
Yeah.
testing they needed with everything from communicable diseases to sexual health. Like they were able to focus on what they needed to, and we were able to handle the pandemic stress
Yeah.
for the state of Alaska. So very much one of those like low resource areas. So I did that, and by the time that I was done with that position, I was very much in a place that I had spent the last almost 10 years focused on kind of what's the next step that I need to take or what's the next expected thing to do. And I very much found myself in a place that I'm like, holy cow, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I want to do next. Like, I've hit this high point in my career at 25. What do I do now? So
Which is
really
quite
kind of
extreme at 25, right? Like
right.
at
Yeah.
25, yeah, well, yeah,
Oh
you're
yeah.
giving me a bit of a breakdown, dare I say it, like in terms of like you're literally a baby. Like I'm 47, so I'm listening to this going, wow.
One
You
one 100%. I'm 30 now, and I'm like, how in the world did I do that? Like, what was I doing? What was I thinking?
But you,
100%.
yeah,
I
but
was a baby.
yeah, you are. But you did listening to you just then. You made a point, and I know that's where you're going to go next with this. Was that the expectation? I tapped into that. I heard this expectation. So like that's an
Yep,
external piece. So I'll let you keep going, but I think that kind of probably was part of the trigger of the pressure you put on
for
yourself.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I hit that like burnout point at 25 where I'm like, all right, I need to hit the reset button and kind of refigure out everything and very much like almost get to know myself all over again. And part of that process was really sort of an introspection and recognizing, yes, how many of those expectations and things that I was taking
Mm.
from other people and what I should be doing. There's an author that I read a good bit from, and she talks about shoulding all over yourself. And I'm like, 100%, I was shoulding
Oh,
everywhere.
I love
Like,
that.
I
I haven't.
should do
Yeah.
this. Somebody, you haven't heard
But
that?
no,
Oh my
I
gosh.
have.
No,
It's
I love
always
it.
like I've always the should you should have done this, you should have done that, but shoulding all over yourself.
Yeah, you're
It's almost
shutting
like
all over
shitting all over
yourself.
yourself. You know what I mean? Like it's just with
Yeah,
excuse my language, but yeah, like it's yeah, shooting all over yourself is like
yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, so you get to that point that you realize like I am taking all the shoulds from all around me and I'm not doing anything to honor myself and my
Mm,
own sort of pattern and what I want to do and what I want to figure out.
mm,
So I really went through this process of sort of figuring things out, and as I did, then I started having conversations with people that were in similar situations to me that I'm like, okay, well, here's how I'm navigating it. And here's what I see going on with your situation. Let's talk through that. And so that's kind of where my career sort of took a turn from there. I'm still in the biotech industry, but have done a ton of work and a ton of coaching, personal clients or businesses, in talking about managing the expectations around you and understanding
mm,
how you want to balance your time and energy in a way that lets you be productive, but
mm.
also lets you honor yourself and find the fulfillment that you want while also kicking ass and
Yeah,
doing all the things.
yeah.
So
I love that.
that's where I am, I guess. I'm right now. I'm pursuing a doctorate in public health and clinical lab science, and working on my dissertation at the moment. Also doing consulting and working full time, and then doing all the things with mom life and raising kids and husband
How
and
many
all
kids
the
have you
things.
got?
So I have a 9-year-old stepdaughter, and I am 6 months pregnant.
Oh,
So
congratulations.
doing all the
You
things.
are doing all the things. So let's rewind for a second. How did
For
you
sure.
navigate through that burnout, if you like, at 25? Like what practices did you put in place? Did you seek help? How did you so you had almost like an identity crisis, and I totally empathize and understand that. And I just want to acknowledge, that is a really difficult and tricky situation to navigate when you don't know who you are and what you are.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I think for me, something that was really important was recognizing that everybody needs therapy, and that's not just. I think that was the first real reality check that I had, kind of in that season. Was I feel like mid pandemic, everyone was like, "Oh, I'm going to go to therapy because that's what everybody's doing." So I went to therapy, and I remember very vividly the first session. The therapist was like, "All right, well, what are you doing for self care?" And I just looked at her like she was an idiot. I was like, I, I'm here. I'm here for self care. What do you mean? What am I doing? Like, I'm here. I'm busy, but I'm here. And she's like, this isn't self care. This is like survival mode. This is health. Like, your mental health is non negotiable. Your self care is also non negotiable. So let's figure out how to do that. And it really took, I mean, I'm a big reader, and we've talked online or offline a bit about reading and podcasts and kind of doing all the things that you use to take in information. And I'm a big reader and a big kind of, I like to pull information together. So I read a ton. I listened to a ton of podcasts, and did a lot of therapy,
Mm,
in kind of figuring out like, okay, well, like, what do I need to do to find myself and find what's important to me? And it sounds so dramatic to be like, oh yeah, I had an identity crisis at 25, but 100% I had an identity crisis at 25.
Mm.
And that's the time when like the friends and the people around you are like, oh, you're just starting your life, you're doing all these things, like everything is on an upward trajectory, like you've got the white picket fence, you've got everything. And I'm like, but I'm so unhappy, this is not what I want in my life.
Yeah.
And so it took a lot of sort of self-reflection and figuring that out and working through that. And really creating the system that I teach on now is looking at using your time and using micro habits and the things that are bringing
Mm.
joy into your life to be able to handle all the things that you may not necessarily want in your life, but they're part of your life.
Yeah, or what you can't control as well, right? Like there's so much to unpack even
Right.
there. So like,
Yeah.
let's just quickly the self-care piece because when I hit my identity burnout crisis, I started with self-care first and foremost. So I got into the infrared saunas. That
Mm-hmm.
was the first thing my doctor and coach were like, you need to just rest. Like I didn't get out of bed some days. Like that's like I just slept because my body was just
Yeah.
craving to just go out of this fight and flight mode into this kind of just, calmer mode. And it was like I just needed to cuddle myself, like and wrap
Yeah.
myself in some cotton wool or a doona. And that went on for quite a few months. And then I obviously I did therapy as well, to get those strategies to help me go forward. But I think it is a combination of both because it's your mind and body. But the other part of that for me is also then you mentioned it before about introspection, right? But, you know, it's like you are disconnected completely internally. And so I think you are
Mm-hmm.
connected, your mind and your body are disconnected, but you're also disconnected from your soul. And so you got the three elements disconnected. And yet you've got everyone out externally saying to you, you're going to be fine. You're just going through it. It's just a moment. You're
Mm-hmm.
only 25 and you've got your life ahead of you. Or for me, it was like, you can do whatever you want to do now. But at that point in time, you can't see the wood for the trees. And you're like, but
Yeah.
nothing is bringing me any joy whatsoever. I felt like I was this. Like, I wasn't me. I was just numb. I would go to places, I would see people, but nothing was bringing me joy at that point in time. And it was a horrible
Yeah.
place to be. Like, is that what was going on for you?
Yeah, 100%. So that sense of it's called anhedonia. It's where you don't have the ability to take joy from the things that should bring you joy and you're really
Yeah.
just going through the motions.
Yes.
And that is, yeah, 100% I was living in that state of I'm doing what I need to do, I'm saying what I need to say, I'm showing up when I need to show up. I'm probably getting drunk every weekend or every couple of nights or whatever and not having good habits, but I'm showing up when I need to and I'm doing what I need to.
Yeah.
So here I am. And it took a lot of like introspection and realizing I am not where I want to be. I'm just showing up, and showing up isn't what I need to be doing.
No.
I need to be enjoying my life and living my life. I need to be living and not just showing up.
Yeah. And so what was your turning habit? Like what was your turning point, I should say? Because the bad habits, I haven't actually had a conversation with anyone about that during their identity crisis. Let's just call it identity crisis because burnout's part of that, right? But it's an identity
Yeah.
crisis. And I can relate to those bad habits as well. You know, drinking or whatever, just because it almost kind of numbs the pain sort of thing. But then you get to a point and you're like,
Yeah.
that's not even working for me anymore. I'm feeling like crap when I wake
Yeah.
up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so
Yep.
what was your complete turning point? You were doing the therapy, you were doing the podcasting, reading books. But there's only so much therapy can do. There's only so much a podcast or a book can do. When did you notice
Yep.
that you were starting to find those little moments or those green shoots or those little moments of joy and you were like, oh, I actually feel like I'm coming out of this hole that I've been in for however long. Like what was the
Yeah.
switch?
So I feel like the big things that shifted for me were surrounding myself with people that were bringing me to the level that I wanted to be at, and not just the convenient ones. So finding beyond just these are the friends that live at my apartment building. Going to something that kind of challenged the status quo. So for me, I actually joined I'm sure they've got them in Australia too, but a spin studio. So to do like cycling.
Yeah.
So joined a spin studio. So I started making friends there and started getting more involved kind of in what are the things that bring me joy. And spin was something that was big. And then I kind of started looking at, okay, well, if I'm drinking all weekend, then by the Monday morning spin class that I do to like kick off my week, like really positive, I feel horrible going into that. So like, I don't want to do all these habits that I'm doing right now. And then it was, I mean, I grew up with a Christian faith and like belief basis, and leaning into that more and getting more connected into my faith, and also like reflecting on myself on like, where do I want to be and how do I want to be, and how do I want to be showing up in the ways that I want to show up in the best way. And so I feel like for me, shifting those habits was realizing, number one, I am allowed to have an identity crisis, but that doesn't mean that I have to continue in it. So I feel like it took me months of sitting in that, like,
Ugh,
yeah,
I feel
I
that.
need rest, and I
Yeah,
need
I
to
feel that.
figure out my habits and need to do all these things. It took months to figure out, like, okay, I've had my moment to like freak out and not have any idea where I am and just show up because I'm here. But now I actually want to do things. So I'm going to pursue new habits, or I'm going to pursue the things that actually bring me joy and not just look like they bring me joy.
Yeah.
And those are, it was kind of a process, but that's kind of how I got to that point.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I look at it as almost like there's those transactional moments of joy that look like you're getting joy or surface, but actually,
Mm-hmm.
what's actually bringing you real joy? What's connecting your mind, body, and soul so that you feel so much joy coming out? Like, it's like sometimes you have that grin on your face and you don't even know why you have it. Like, I had it yesterday. Like,
Yep.
I was just like, grinning and I'm thinking, oh, this is, like that I just because I am, I do have those moments of joy, and they're real moments of joy, right? And so
Yeah.
okay, so then in terms of how you started then getting into working with people, younger people, like, people who were
Yeah.
potentially at crossroads with their career and what do they do next? And you talked to me about this, looking at human functioning and success standards and, working with them from a personal career and coaching perspective. How did you get into that? Like at what point did you go, okay, I want to now start to help people who have, because I'm a lived experience.
Yeah, so I feel like it was around that time that I started. I was working on kind of some side projects, and doing a lot of consulting. And I had a lot of people that were like, okay, here's where you are in your career. You're 25, you've hit this success, you seem like a happy person. How in the hell are you functioning? Like, what are you doing to be able to do these things and not be completely burnout? Because I feel like that identity crisis and burnout phase was definitely not something that was like advertised to people. Like, it was not something people are like, oh man, yeah, she's really let herself go, like she's really struggling. No, nobody had any idea that I was like, the darkest and worst place in my life was like 2021. Like, it was a horrible time. But
Mm,
at that point, everybody saw the external success and the things that I was doing. And
mm,
so when I shifted out of that is when people started to notice, they're like, hey, you seem really happy. You look really healthy. You look like you're enjoying your life again. What are you doing? And why and how and all the things. So that was kind of where it started, was just having those conversations of like, yeah, actually, I have gone through all these things, and I have done a ton of reading and a ton of podcasts and research and things like that. And like,
soul searching.
none of these soul searching, yes, none of these things individually. It's not like I read a book and was like, oh, okay, finished the book. Now I know what to do with my life. Everything makes sense. It was like,
Mm,
okay, well, this makes sense for part of my life, but also I'm a student. Like you have, so the concept that I talk about now is like your life is a series of buckets, and the energy that you pour into each of those buckets are then pouring into your life bucket. And
Mm,
whether or not you like it, your life bucket is what you're carrying around.
yeah.
And so I started having these conversations with people around what are the buckets that you're carrying and how are you navigating that and how are you balancing filling your bucket with all the ways that you have to pour out of it. And that was kind of how it started. It was really just like organic conversations. It wasn't like oh, I'm going to start a business and coach people on how to do, but it was just, it started with conversations by the pool saying, oh yeah, well, here's what I'm doing and here's how I think about this, and kind of going through those normal everyday interactions. And then over time, and as I started pursuing my doctorate, I really leaned into the idea of saying yes to opportunities that come up, whether or not they terrify you.
Yeah.
So things like, hey, I want you to be on this podcast, or hey, I want you to present at this conference. I'm like, oh my God, you want me to what? Okay, okay, yeah, we can, yeah. What do you want to talk about? What should we do? Like all those sorts of things kind of piece by piece led into I did a breakout session at a conference, and that led to, hey, can you come talk to my corporate team about this, because I see my team showing up and going through the motions, but nobody seems excited about any of the work that we're
Mm,
doing.
mm.
And this conference that I originally spoke at was a nonprofit conference, so it's the type of industry that you need to be excited about what you're doing.
Oh
Like,
gosh, yeah.
bless all the nonprofit workers in the world. Like, you have a hard job, you have a lot going on,
Yeah.
and losing yourself in that process is not the way to find success for the organization. And so it started out with that, and then it started more into, hey, I just read your children's book and I saw a note in the back about going to your website, so I did that, and then I saw this blog post, and so now can I set up a call with you to talk about my career progression or the different things that I have going on. So it was just kind of like piece by piece things started falling into place, and more people started asking, hey, can you do something here?
Mm,
And then in my doctorate program, it started out with, hey, can you lead a graduate student webinar? And I did that, and then it was like, oh my God, this was amazing. It's our best webinar yet. Can you do another one? Can you do a series? How can you talk about this in your next webinar? And kind of working through all of that. And so, sorry to kind of circle back to your original question, it was all a lot of like organic conversations that then led into opportunities that choosing to say yes to, because I had the bucketed ability to do that, I was then able to take the next step and open the next door.
yeah, that's awesome. I love all of that. But it's the fact that your energy shifted, you chose to say yes, but you were also, I feel like you were in that really, kind of for me, it's the formless state in terms of you were very much just like reshaping yourself and kind of, like, oh, I'll go here and I'll go here and I'll try this and I'll try
Mm-hmm.
this. And yes, it's being in the unknown, but you were open-minded. You had the courage to do so.
Yep.
You were like, I am not going to stay where I am because that's a form of me that
Mm-hmm.
I don't know and I don't relate to anymore. And so I can
Yeah.
still be super successful, but I want to be able to do it my way. And I want to do it from a place where I'm fully connected, right? And even the fact
Yep.
the way you talked around leveling up and, positioning yourself or putting yourself into places and spaces with, the high performers, the people that you aspire to. I really relate to that too, because I think that, as you evolve, your friends and the people that you connect with, they evolve too, and so you're looking to
Mm-hmm.
continue to growth, so you're in this kind of this growth state. And so it's fascinating that you've been able to take this adversity and turn it into something so much more powerful probably than all the successes you had, like the 40 under 40, etc. And you probably like, do you look now and think, oh my goodness, like that was huge success, but I see this as even like it's different success, if that makes sense. Does it feel different?
Yeah, 100%. I think you've got, like you said, that connectedness of all parts of myself are in what I'm doing now. And I think that's the biggest, when I introduce myself at conferences or different events, then that is the biggest thing that I'm saying is like, here's all the hats that I wear. But like my biggest accomplishment, despite all of this, is that I'm happy and I can show up for myself and my husband and my kids in a present way
Mm,
that I'm excited about.
mm,
And I think part of that is the connection, and part of that is the intentionality behind making sure that you're doing things to honor yourself and all parts of yourself while also pursuing that success. So, yeah, I look back and I'm like, holy cow, I was massively successful. And to me, enough was never enough. Like I was greatly
same,
successful, and then I needed to do the next thing. And
same.
what's the next thing to do? And how do you top that? And like all of the above, and realizing now that I'm like, oh my God, I'm in a completely different place now than I was. I mean, I live across the country even from where I was at 24, 25, and I am tenfold happier and could not imagine life going back to the way that it was. Like, and I thought it was great at that point.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the intentionality of that. And you mentioned like connections with people and leveling up. I think, yes, while you're evolving, it's important to honor that and see that within yourself. But I think a huge learning lesson for me in that process too was realizing that some people are going to be made uncomfortable by your evolution.
100%. Oh my
And
God.
some
Yes.
and some people are going to be sitting on the lowest level of the building, if you will. And you choose if you're taking the elevator down to the ground floor again or not. They choose whether or not they want to go up the elevator. But for
Yeah.
you, you're rising on the elevator.
Yeah, no, that's
And
it's
you choose whether or not you want to be on that level with them.
yeah. And I think for me that there've been those lonely moments where you're like, I don't know who's coming on the elevator with me sort of thing.
Yep.
Like yeah, it's been. I think that's probably one of the hardest parts because you don't look any different. But you are different. You've evolved so much within because you've done all the
Yeah.
work. You've done the work, and it's a continuous journey. And like you say, you're continuing to, to go up on the ladder. I did want to ask you about how do you obviously, one child, two, another one on the way, husband, you've got family, you've got, all the things going on with work, career. How do you manage it now in a really optimized and sustained way so that, like, what have you put in place to ensure that you don't go through that, identity burnout crisis again? Like, what have you put in place and what are your, I guess, um, what boundaries have you put in place? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Just
A fantastic
hello?
question. So I feel like
Mm.
yeah, can you hear me? I'm still here.
Yeah, cool. There you go.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So I feel like for me, the most important thing was recognizing um, when I was taking in the shoulds all around me and when I was doing something to honor who I was as a person and functioning and everything else. So recognizing that I think was really important. With looking at all the ways to balance your time, if you Google or just search however you want to search time management, whether it's apps or planners or anything like that, there's 1,000 different options on
Mm.
what's going to work for you. And one of the things that I really, really talk to people about is you need a system, and there's tons of research behind like the Zeigarnik effect, which is looking at the fact that lists reduce executive burden. So
Mm.
having a list, even though sometimes lists kind of stress people out because it's listing out all the things that need to get done, having a list is removing that need from your brain.
Mm.
As well as like the intentionality behind getting 1% better versus 1% worse and
Yeah.
how that looks. It might just be a small change now, but it's a big change later.
Mm.
So coming up with a system that works for you and for me, that is, I kind of talk my clients through sort of a 3-step process of identifying all the buckets in your life and all the things that are taking up time and mental energy,
Mm-hmm.
coordinating with your team, if you will. So whether it's your work team or your family team or whoever, and looking at what buckets everyone's carrying and what buckets you're sharing and how you're navigating all of those things and how you can show up to each of those things in a way that gives it the attention it needs in your life at that time, as well as something that fills it up and makes you like excited about having that as part of your life. And if you can't get excited about something in your life, is it really required to be there? Must it be there? If not, dump the bucket, get rid of it.
Subtract it. I
So
like that.
showing, yeah, subtract it. So showing up in ways that make sense for you and make sense for your family, and everyone's putting in just a little bit. And when everyone's putting in a little bit, suddenly the bucket is full and you're able to function. And then using all of that information that you've then gathered to write down a list and then filtering that list in a way that lets you come up with actionable steps
Mm-hmm.
that you can do on a daily basis to say, okay, here's my automated daily habits.
Mm.
I have every Monday, this pops up on my list. Every Tuesday, this comes up on my list.
Mm.
Every Sunday, I repopulate my list so that all of my everyday tasks repopulate this week. So then I set the filter to just Sunday, and I have just the things that I need to get done today. And then all of the things that my family and my team at work and everyone has talked about and the things that need to get done this week or need our attention are then assigned to whatever day of the week I want to assign those things to. So I'm able to kind of organize everything that needs to get done in all these different areas of life into a coherent, very actionable set of things that include things like self-care and the intentional process of I know that if I don't put it on my list, it's not going to get done. Because as much as I would like to preach on like it's so important to do self-care, I'm very quick to neglect myself in helping other things.
Yeah.
So putting those things, prioritizing those things is really important. And I think that's how, so I've been following this process for about the last 3 years, and have been able to sustain and build momentum in my career and my life and happiness and all the things through that intentionality of like, I'm prioritizing, organizing, and narrowing things down to what needs to get done and what would be nice to get done.
Mm.
And if it's nice to get done and I have time to do it, great. If it's nice to get done and I don't have time to do it, it's going to be nice to get done tomorrow too.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's for me, it's that those high value versus low value. And, it's not
Yeah.
adding, it's how are you subtracting from that list so that you can intentionally focus on the high value. And I
Yeah.
truly am all about, you need a system. You need to be able to have the system around you. It's that structure. It's the ability to be non-linear because I'm all about being non-linear. Nothing's, from A to B these
Mm-hmm.
days. But how
Yep.
how can you be non-linear in a structure that works for you? And for me,
100%.
this interesting listening to you about this self-care and it's sometimes falling by the wayside. For me, it is a non-negotiable these days. Like, since my recovery,
Mm-hmm.
I am just like, I will be doing active recovery. It's just, it's a high priority in my schedule. Because like you, I'm a high performer, it's like you've got that. It's like a gene in you, right? You're always going to be like, what's next? What am I doing next? And, you're like, so
Yep.
it's just that constant making sure that you've got it's not a handbrake, but just making sure that you've got I think for me, it's also making sure you've got the filters around you so that you don't fall into the habit of, oh my God, I didn't do my self-care this week. And like,
Yep.
yes,
Overperforming and yeah.
All of that. And so last question for you. You're working with the younger generation who I find absolutely fascinating. And obviously you're a different generation to me as well. But here we are. Like I love this conversation that we're having. What's your aspiration for them and what do you see as their biggest question one, what is your biggest aspiration for the generation you're working with in terms of from a personal and career development? And number two is what do you see as their biggest obstacles that they need to overcome as part of what you're doing with them?
Yeah, yeah. So I would say in working with students, it's been really, really interesting to see the differences that are generational, but also the things that hold steady. The things that they are struggling with are also the things that we're struggling with, or that we struggled with as teenagers. And you look back on now and you're like, oh my God, I remember being worried about this thing. So I guess my biggest aspiration for them is to not fall into the trap
Mm.
of the burnout cycle and
Mm.
the performance and exhaustion and um, reward and performance and exhaustion and reward and just that constant survival mode. I
Yes.
don't want them to fall into that.
Yeah.
And that has been the biggest thing that I have talked to people about over the last couple of years is making sure that you're doing things that are protecting you from doing that, because I think um as kind of driven and high functioning individuals, we're very prone to that. Okay, well, what do I need to do next? And not being present. So being present and not falling into that performance survival mode is my aspiration for them. I think the biggest challenge that generation is facing right now is looking at the visibility of, I don't know how to describe it, the visibility of the things that they aspire to in front of them. It's so easy to look at social media or look at interviews or look at different books or TikToks or whatever, like whatever platform you
Yeah.
are taking information from. Even if it's just your friends and your friends are like, oh yeah, I'm doing all these things. The reality is behind the curtain is not the same as what people put on their highlight reel. And I think the generation right now is struggling because they have so much visibility into the things that we struggled with, but we didn't realize how much more we could have been struggling with.
Mm.
Whereas they are seeing everything they struggle with through the lens of everything they could be struggling with and all the things that they should be having.
Yeah.
So they're getting bombarded constantly
Yeah.
with the shoulds, and they're shoulding all over themselves and thinking that they need to perform to reach a certain level because they're seeing people's success,
Yeah.
when in reality that success is coming with a very different amount of work than what's portrayed. So I think it's kind of a back and forth sort of pattern with them, where they've got to kind of toe the line between being informed and understanding the possibilities. I think the possibilities are way more broad than
Oh,
they even
same.
were
Yeah.
when I was growing up.
Yeah.
But realizing that those opportunities also come at a cost. And you can live that high dollar exciting life that you see people live on social media, but what are you trading for that? And
Mm.
is it worth it?
Mm.
And recognizing that it's probably not.
Oh, I
I
love
think that
that.
is the
Yeah.
challenge that
Yes,
they have to navigate.
that's amazing. Yeah, it's such a great insight because it's so true. Like social media, like it's just, even I some days go, at LinkedIn, like I just go on LinkedIn at times and I think to myself, what has become of this? Do you know what I mean? Like because people are like talking about everything and promoting, and then you talk to them, they're like, oh, I'm not even breaking even, B, or this is going on, or that's going on, because, like, it's not easy starting your own business in this environment and things like
Yeah.
that. And so, I sometimes compare myself and think, oh, why aren't I where they are? And then you speak to them and you're like, oh, okay, so why am I even comparing myself? So I think
Right?
it's like the thing I take from that is that, the younger generation really like come back to what's going on inside. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
what do you
Yeah.
truly want from within and then go for it because the possibilities are endless. So like for me, it's subtract all that white noise, or take it within reason, but let's start from in here. What do you truly want to do? And I think that if we could all start from that place and space, we'd be the world would be quite an amazing world because yeah, the possibilities are
Yeah.
endless. And when you come from in here and when you are completely connected from within, that's when you do really notice the possibilities more. You like what you did, you open up, you also have more intuition, you have more clarity, you're clearer.
Yeah.
You can put then the structures and systems in place. So okay,
Yeah, and it's hard to recognize that sometimes hitting the brakes is how you hit the gas. You can do a lot more when you stop and take a step back and say like, does this honor what I want for myself and my true desires and the things that I want? And if the
yeah.
answer is no, then no, I need to dump it. And if the answer is yes, then let's go.
Yes,
But
let's
until you
go.
slow down, you can't recognize those
Yeah,
things.
I love this. I've loved our chat. How, Alyssa, can we find out more about you? Like I'll put it in the
Yes.
notes, but where do we find more about you?
Yeah, so you can reach out to me. I'm on social media, sort of spotty. So it's easier to find me either on LinkedIn or through my website. My website is just my name, alyssadurfey.com. And then you can find me on LinkedIn too. I'm pretty accessible.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I've loved our chat today. I feel like we could, hopefully we'll get on and chat again sometime on the pod. But yeah, I love what you're doing. I also love your backdrop, by the way, all the books and the plants and
Well,
it's
well, thank you.
yeah, it's a great vibe. But you have a wonderful afternoon and thank you for sharing all your insights. And yeah, wishing you all the best with little Bubba coming in a few months' time. What an exciting
For
time
sure.
and place you're in. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Bea. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.